you online. Join us, please.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm calling this meeting to order as the chairman of the SSTAC.
Hi. Hey.
My name is Patrick Hagan.
That's okay. If you want to go around the room and do introductions on the.
Why don't we go around, introduce ourselves to everybody first with the SSTAC voting members, and then we'll take the back seats.
I'm Hallie Fonseca. I'm a contractor for RABA. I work for TransDev. I represent that company.
My name is Carolyn Nava. I represent the Disability Action Center. I am the chair of the 9-county coalition known as DAN, or the Diverse Ability Advocacy Network.
I'm Jackie Rose, and I work for Shasta County, and I work for the BHSS Support Services.
Hi, I'm Kristen Schrader, and formerly elected council member and community member this time.
I'm Stacy Wadley. I'm Senior Director at Dignity Health Connected Living.
I'm Carrie Carbone from United Way of Northern California.
And then you want to go around the room?
Yeah, well, we can start over on the left and.
All right, I'm Laurent Beauregard. I'm an assistant transportation planner here at SRTA.
And I'm K.O. Seichel. I'm with the Regional Center, Far Northern Regional Center.
Caltrans Regional Planning. Kelly Babcock, Caltrans District 2 Transit Coordinator.
I'm Nicole Radford, social worker with Shasta County Health and Human Services Agency Unfiltered Adult Program.
I'm Keith Williams, Senior Transportation Planner at the Shasta Regional Transportation Agency.
I'm Jennifer Pollum with the Shasta Regional Transportation Agency. You want to get everybody online?
And we can go to the online, those using Zoom.
And actually, sorry, can you tell who's on there?
I can't.
I'm seeing, Laurent, do you mind calling them out? And if they're able, are they able to unmute or not?
They should be able to unmute themselves, and I should be able to unmute them as well. So starting with Brody Wilborn.
Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Brody Wilborn, Director of Transportation for Dignity Health Connected Living.
Genevieve Evans.
Genevieve Evans with LSC Transportation Consultants. We are working on the coordinated plan update.
Claire Hutchinson.
Hi, Claire Hutchinson, Transportation Planner with LSC. Also working on the coordinated plan update, and we are also working on the RABA short range transit plan. So here to talk about that as well.
John Ando.
Good afternoon, John Ando, Transit General Manager for the Reading Area Bus Authority.
Justine Marmish.
Hi everyone, Justine Marmish. I am also a transportation planner at LSC Transportation Consultants, and I will be presenting our brief workshop on the coordinated plan.
And Katie DeMaya.
Yes, my name is Katie. I'm with AIM Consulting. We are engagement specialists working on the coordinated plan.
That should be everyone on that. We do have a couple people in the not as panelists, just attendees. We'd like to hear from them.
That's okay. I think Brody I think Brody was a panelist. Is that right?
Yes.
I think we need to, he needs to be also in listen only mode, just because if an SSTAC or basically if an SSTAC member is not present, they cannot be voting. They can be listening in.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this individual is a panelist, but I got a message from Laura Acosta, who is also online. With Dignity Health. She cannot unmute, so she wanted to make sure that she announced her presence.
Thank you. Okay. And then
Any public?
Yep.
Are there any public comments to be made?
None submitted in the chat so far.
And no, nothing submitted by email or mail?
Not that we've received.
Okay. I guess we could go first item.
It's under number 3,
Yeah,
discussion.
just have trouble.
Discussion and action.
Yeah. Would you say that?
Sure.
My vision has just gone really blurry
That's
right
fine.
now.
We're on agenda item number 3 under discussion and action. The first item A is the short-range transit plan update. And this will be passed over to the Reading Area Bus Authority and possibly, it sounds like, LSC.
Yes, good afternoon. I'd like LSC, they are working on our short-range transit plan for the Reading Area Bus Authority. And right now we're in the evaluation of the alternatives phase, and they'll be doing a brief presentation about where we are today.
Thank you, John. I will be presenting on the short range transit plan. Here you go. And then is this coming up for everyone okay? For you?
Yes, we're
you
seeing next slide.
You should probably change the
view.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on the control side of it.
All right, let me try again. Oh, I do not know.
You can disconnect the sharing and then reconnect with the different screen.
Thank you. And
yeah.
Sorry, y'all. I've never had this view.
It does throw you off sometimes. That
I'm like, oh goodness, I feel like this was lingering from another thing. Displays. All right, I figured it out. All right.
For this. My short ranges.
Does this look better for folks?
Yes.
Woo, sorry about that. So LSC, as John mentioned, has been working on the Reading Area Bus Authority Short Range Transit Plan. This has been an ongoing process that is actually about to culminate later this year. So this is an update for all of you about where the project currently stands and where we could use your input if you have any. See. So the project to date, we first looked at the existing conditions in the RABA service area in particular, including looking at demographics, transit issues. The next step was to take those existing conditions and then work on developing alternatives that could improve transit performance and better serve community members. This is obviously of particular importance post-COVID, as COVID greatly impacted transit nationwide. So trying to figure out how we can best use resources to meet the needs of Reading and the Shasta County residents. Our ultimate product is going to be the short range transit plan, which is a 5-year business plan for RABA. It will include service recommendations such as routing changes, outline capital needs such as the need for new vehicles and electric vehicles, and explain how to fund all of it. This final report is expected to be finished and adopted probably sometime this fall. The big goals that were guiding the study was how to right size or how to modify services to best meet the needs of the area given changing demand during this post-COVID era, evaluate service options that address ongoing unmet transit needs in the region, and then try to just maximize the use of RABA's resources to better serve residents. We've done a lot of engagement prior to this, so this is definitely a later update or later in the project stage. Last summer, we conducted an onboard passenger survey on all RABA fixed routes. We conducted an online community survey in the fall that was open to all members of the public. We conducted an online survey specifically of Shasta County students, faculty, staff that was available in the fall. My colleague conducted stakeholder interviews with some of you actually in the room, Selena McKinney. Those were done in the fall of last year. We also held a pop-up event and community workshop last November, another community workshop in May. The alternatives analysis that we are summarizing briefly today was presented to the RABA board in May. And now we are here presenting to you all as the SSTAC in July. The big focus of where the study is now, as John mentioned, is this alternatives analysis. What changes would meet the needs of Shasta County residents in a financially effective manner? We look at the service changes, capital, fares, and marketing recommendations. A lot of these changes are looking at fixed route alternatives, such as reducing route lengths to improve on-time performance. Poor on-time performance was a noted complaint by a lot of passengers. So trying to figure out how to better make sure buses are reliable and on time. Realigning routes to eliminate segments with poor performance. If no one is getting picked up and then it's also causing the bus to be delayed, that could potentially just be a streamlined route. Eliminating poor performing routes altogether. And then also we looked at new fixed routes and service to new areas, such as serving the new Costco on the eastern side of town. Other alternatives looked at specifically for the fixed routes are called the span of service changes, which has to do with when these fixed routes go into service and when they end their service day. So we looked at doing earlier and or later service on weekdays, earlier or later service on Saturdays, reducing Saturday service, as well as adding some Sunday routes. A new service concept that has come up in recent years, especially since COVID, with gaining popularity, is this concept of microtransit. Microtransit is more or less Uber or Lyft for public transit. So it uses app-based technology and is an on-demand service where riders can request their ride through an app. Phone dispatch would also be available as well. And then the ride is typically provided within 15 to 30 minutes after the request. As seen on this map on this slide, we analyzed 5 different potential microtransit zones, one in Anderson, and then 1 in Shasta Lake, and 3 in Redding. We also did our analysis by comparing microtransit services in other areas, such as Sacramento, Reno, Bakersfield, and Napa. Another issue of potential more interest to you all as SSTAC members, but the VA clinic has its new location that is harder to serve with traditional fixed routes. So that was one of the top issues identified during the study process. Our plan looks at multiple different ways to potentially serve the VA clinic, including a volunteer mileage reimbursement program, where it would be organized so that drivers would bring patients to the VA clinic, either using their own vehicles, using program vehicles. There are different levels as shown on this slide, and it would depend on financial resources, but could be a helpful alternative for getting people to the VA clinic. One of the microtransit zones that we analyzed would include service to the VA clinic, so patients could also utilize that. And that is one of those alternatives that we analyzed that met performance standards, so it would be a good alternative. But also of note, starting actually in August 2023, RABA will be initiating a new flex route service to the VA clinic. So this is going to be Monday through Saturday, 10 round trips per day, and consist of service from the downtown transit center to the veterans home, the VA clinic, and the airport. This will be a pilot program for 1 year, pending on performance and success. But the SRTP is definitely looking at many different options for how to better provide transportation access to the VA clinic. I apologize, this slide has a lot of words, but these are the alternatives that have been recommended for further consideration because they were expected to perform well and have high ridership or improve costs. You can see on the left, there are 5 alternatives which are recommended to help improve on-time performance on routes 1, 2 west, 2 east, 4, and 5. And then on the right side are some a bit more, these alternatives either change or eliminate routes or are related to microtransit. So I'm not going to read through all of them, but some of the more ones related to eliminating routes are it's recommended to eliminate the Crosstown Express and the Anderson commuter service. It's recommended to add this east microtransit zone that would encompass the VA clinic, as well as the downtown or a downtown west microtransit zone in Reading, extending Route 4 to Costco and extending Route 3 to Costco. And then, like I said, those route realignments on those following routes. As mentioned, there's also capital needs, marketing recommendations, and fare recommendations that are being considered in the planning process. So we would love to hear from you all about what you think regarding alternatives, if you think any should be continued to be considered, if you are in strong support of any. All study updates and study products have been added to the RABA website. So if you can go onto the RABA website, you can review our tech memos, our working reports that have been produced so far. There is a survey available that you can indicate which alternatives you support. You also can email me directly with comments. My email is just claire@lsctrans.com. You are also welcome to reach out to John at RABA at either his email or by phone. You all have great insight into some members of the community who are in the most in need of transit and who use RABA very often. So your opinions are definitely very valued in this process as we figure out which alternatives to move forward with into the final short-range transit plan that will be influencing RABA operations from this year through 2028. And that. John, if you think I missed anything and you want to add.
You covered it well. We look forward to the council's feedback on the short-range transit plan, and we're happy to answer any questions if there are any.
I have one quick.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Claire, thank you. That was very well presented. Can you share if that Park Marina Drive loop is eliminated? Does that affect servicing to the Social Security office?
No, because it would be included in the new microtransit zone.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I wanted to acknowledge John's work on returning the bus to the veterans home and the clinic and the airport. And I want to appreciate the work that SRTA contributed to that and the funding and the support of the RABA board. And I really appreciate, John, that I think you hit the ground running when you first started with Reading. And I just appreciate all the work that everybody did collaboratively to get, and TransDev, thank you, because it takes the bus and the driver. to get this all going. And I think that the Veterans Clinic, I'm sure, is very appreciative, the Veterans Home. Just want to give a shout out.
Claire, will those slides be available?
Yes, I can provide them to Keith and Laurent to distribute to all of you.
And then the one thing I noticed, when did you want feedback on with the survey that's online and that last slide?
I will say as soon as possible. However, it's not like this is a survey that is closing this week. I would say that we're hoping to push forward with the planning process in August. So people have comments, please get them to us as soon as possible. We will take comments though at any point prior to the final being adopted. So there, in that sense, there is much more time, but we'd like to hear as soon as you can. But let's say mid-August.
I'm not seeing any questions from our virtual attendees.
Thank you.
All right, I guess we should move on to the Route 15.
Yes, good afternoon. I've sent out a little summary of the Route 15 for those that have access to email, but I'll give you a perspective of what we're looking to do. This new Route 15 would be a flex route using a cutaway bus. It would operate primarily from Canby Transfer Center to the Veterans Home, VA Clinic, and the Reading Regional Airport, with stops along Hilltop Drive, as well as the Save Mart on Churn Creek Road. The route is anticipated to be interlined with the Crosstown Express for those that are coming from downtown that would want to continue to those destinations. We plan to run this route Monday through Friday with 10 trips each day. We've prepared a draft schedule that we're finalizing. However, we've prepared it in a manner to where it's time to meet flights at the airport for those that want to take advantage of using the airport. And its trips are also scheduled in the manner for those to be able to effectively schedule appointments at the VA clinic, for people who live at the Veterans Home that want to take advantage of doing other quality of life opportunities in Reading, such as going shopping at Save Mart, going to the hospital, medical appointments, etc. We're shooting for late August, early September implementation. Regular RABA fares would apply, but for the time being, RABA is fare free. So the route would start with fares being free. And happy to answer any questions if there are any.
I have a question. So how is it, that's a great idea to do fare free for the summer. How is it, do you have any impression on how the ridership is, what the level of ridership is?
I understand, talking with our contractor, ridership has been up. We're getting new riders to the system that haven't been on public transit before, which was the ultimate goal of the fare free summer.
No questions from our virtual attendees.
All right.
Oh, one second. Laura, you should be able to talk now.
Thank you, appreciate it. No questions at the moment.
And that should be it.
All right, is there any other member or agency updates that need to be
I do.
set?
Yep. I might have seen a few emails come from me this past week. The FTA, Federal Transit Administration 5310, Enhanced Transportation for, I'm probably gonna mess this up, elderly and individuals with disabilities. There's a webinar this week. So if you look through your emails, you would see that. So there's a funding opportunity. Soon, you'll also see something coming from us about another funding opportunity. This would be state funds for the California State of Good Repair Funds. But if you're interested in kind of looking into that, we do have policies on our website. That is for vehicles and keeping them in a state of good repair, obviously, but there are kind of other available opportunities there. The stranger one, I guess, maybe that I sent out, but FTA asked us to, was to, they were asking transit agencies to reach out to their employees and riders about renewing Medicaid and CHIP. So you should have seen that email come out also, and they said it was very time sensitive. So please share that, to the extent you can with your clients and the riders.
Anyone else? All right, I guess we should move on to the Shasta Coordinated Transportation Plan workshop.
Thank you. Yeah, so Keith Williams again from the Shasta Regional Transportation Agency, and the Shasta Regional Transportation Agency is updating its coordinated transportation plan, and this is done every 5 or 6 years, and so that time has come up again. And the SRTA recently hired LSC to do this effort, and they have a lot of experience with this kind of plan, which is great because it's kind of unique. What we try and do collectively is to just coordinate the transportation services on offer between public and private entities in the region, and see if we can find efficiencies that can be made. So I'll leave a lot of the detail to LSC, and I guess specifically Justine will start us off.
All righty. Hold on, I progressed in my slide. Now I have to go back. All right. Come on. There we go. Great. So yeah, I think Keith's kind of introduced what we're doing here today. Here's our title slide. A little bit about, we'll go into a little bit about what a coordinated plan is, what we're looking to discuss today, and how you can help out moving forward through the process. But first, I'm going to introduce our team here. There's some lag in my screen here. I think Keith and Laurent have already introduced themselves. They'll be on the SRTA side of our planning process. LSC, we are located out of Tahoe City, California, another rural community of California. We've done a lot of work in the region over the years, and we're excited to work on this. Now we've kind of already done introductions, so I figure we can probably skip some of that. And we have partnered up with AIM Consulting, who will be leading up more of our outreach and stakeholder information gathering input along the way. So what is a coordinated plan? It sounds kind of vague. It's coordinated, coordinating what, coordinating who. Just kind of the main tenets are that it's a list of recommended strategies to improve mobility and connectivity throughout large rural communities. It helps create a list of different projects that folks can apply for the 5310 grant funding that was just mentioned earlier on this call. It is required by the FTA that it is within these plans. So As this cycle is actually ending at the end of next month, August 30th, this would be setting everyone up for an application cycle for next year, 2024. And it kind of includes an assessment of all the resources that are currently available and tries to identify, you know, where there are certain needs or gaps in services, depending on how things have shifted since the previous plan. Kind of going further into the goals for the Shasta Coordinated Transportation Plan, it's going to serve as a guide for your community, but primarily SRTA, to organize different programs and project requests from various service providers in the area. And yeah, again, helps with creating this list to organize and submit for program grants, primarily Section 5310. So we are pretty new in the planning process. We're about 2 months in right now. We have been actively gathering information about all of the different transit providers in the region, kind of establishing this existing conditions base to build the rest of our report from. This includes demographic analysis, again, that existing transit providers, as well as an overview of the previous plan. Leading into launching a transportation provider questionnaire. This is where we really get to know the current providers in the region, and this is our inventory of how many vehicles do they have, how many people do they serve annually, do they provide physical transportation services, or do they supply their clients with tickets or vouchers to use local transit such as RABA. So that'll be launched later this month, and we're currently putting together that contact list. And then from there, we have this, you know, overarching provider stakeholder database that we can work with throughout the rest of this project. So diving into our existing conditions, first and foremost, we look at the demographics for the region. You can see here that roughly 1 in 5 people within the area are over the age of 65. There are also, you know, 18% of your population live with some sort of disability, either cognitive or physical, followed by those living below the poverty level. Whoops, okay. So moving through that, I wanted to see if there's anything else on here. This is slightly more than the federal poverty level for the state of California. It's currently at 12% for the state of California. So interesting to see that. Yeah, this all feeds into our transit needs index, and I apologize, you have a lot of different communities within the area, so this font might be a little small on your screen there. But essentially, this takes into consideration all of these different demographic subgroups and creates a better understanding of the density of each of these subgroups in an effort to not double count different people within a community. So from this, you can see that Anderson as a community has a really high population of folks meeting a lot of these different criteria, followed by Redding and Shasta Lake. On the next slide, you can see more of a map showing this information, which in general, especially within a rural community, this is good, that a lot of your transit dependent populations live more centralized. You're not seeing a high concentration of transit dependent people out in Big Bend. You know, that would be a lot harder for the region to serve. So it is definitely concentrated along that 5 corridor. So the last transportation plan was done in 2017. it came up with a lot of different identified gaps and challenges that the population faces daily. This is a short list of those gaps and needs that were identified. You know, a lot of people always want Sunday transportation. That's really common. Some confusion over whether or not different folks are eligible for services. Service frequency along RABA was indicated as a challenge, as well as schedule and hours of operation. There were expressed needs for advanced scheduling, wanting more affordable fares, and again, that eligibility piece. It was also identified that a lot of people didn't really know the services that they were eligible for or where to find them. I know you guys have a really great rider guide. So, you know, the fact that someone has put together all that information and they were still kind of having a hard time figuring out what transportation services are available to them, that's a knowledge gap. And then that lack of interregional services to places outside of the county. Here are the previously recommended strategies within this plan. Some of them are very, I would say, high level. We'll definitely be focusing on trying to create strategies that are more specific for your region and things that are maybe more implementable. But, you know, evaluating, strengthening, and maintaining existing services, that tends to be, you know, the most popular strategy that we can recommend. The marketing and education, that's definitely more of a trying to solve that knowledge gap that we discussed in the previous slide. Mobility management positions are, you know, these liaisons that work within all of the different providers and trying to figure out a way to match clients to eligible services, among many other things that mobility managers do. Multi-organizational approach to solutions and overall coordination. Again, that comes into that mobility management, you know, supporting what you guys are all doing here today, getting together and discussing issues within the region. Driver recruitment, that probably continues to be a problem in most regions that we're working in right now. New and expanded services typically tend to fall towards the bottom of these recommended strategy lists, just because it seems that a lot of places are so constrained already, just trying to meet their current needs, that they have a hard time implementing new services. Infrastructure projects, that can include a transit center or mobility hubs within the region, and trying to cut down on duplicative services by sharing more agency vehicles across different providers. So those are all strategies from the previous plan. And that kind of leads us to our discussion. I know I just went through a lot of information, and you're meeting me for the first time, you're hearing about this for the first time, but I'd really love to hear if there are any transit mobility needs or gaps that you either personally feel we should be addressing in this plan or have heard clients express. You know, it's just good for us to know, and this is part of our outreach process. So I'll give you a moment to think about that, and if you could raise your hand or indicate that. I can't see really the room, so if Keith or Laurent could please negotiate the in-person discussion, that'd be really helpful.
Absolutely. So this is just kind of recycling our annual discussion about unmet transit needs, really, but formalizing it through this plan that's done every 5 years. So I don't know. It's always meaningful, perhaps slightly more meaningful this time around because it's so solid on this plan. But yeah, if you have any thoughts about needs that need to be met for your services or your clients. Stacy Wadley from Dignity Health Connected Living.
Yes, hi. You know, it'd be interesting to see if your data supported this. I don't know if you were looking for it specifically or not, but we seem to see a need where when you're serving seniors, for our services, we can obviously provide service to them when they're outside of the RABA service area. But oftentimes when you're dealing with somebody who's over 70, over 80 years old or older than that, they're definitely more sensitive to temperature. They're more sensitive to trip and fall hazards. And those are significant things, especially the risk of a fall and the impact that that can have on someone's life expectancy when they're older. So getting someone that's 79, 80 years old to the bus stop where there may be trip and fall hazards and it's 105 degrees is difficult. And so we often have people looking to us for our one bus that we have that is funded by the Older Americans Act funding that allows us to do door-to-door pickups, cutaway, paratransit bus, so that we can get these older seniors where they need to be. And the result is if they're not getting where they need to be, then they're isolated, then they're not attending to their health needs. So you've got health and wellness things that impact a society, that impact the community in dealing with all of these issues that come from that. And that addresses getting people to their medical appointments or whether it's socialization. So I don't know if that's something that can be looked at more seriously, because I know that RABA has requirements for their paratransit as well. Those things may not be able to be, there may not be alternative solutions to that. But it feels to me like it's really important when, 1 out of 5 people in our, county is over the age of 65, that we look at some sort of way to get door-to-door transportation for older people that may be frail or have, in my mind, it's anyone over 70 or 75. So I think that's something that needs to be looked at in this county.
Great, we'll definitely look into door-to-door or first mile, last mile type services as a need for the region. Was there anything else? Or Genevieve, did you?
I was just going to add, Claire just mentioned microtransit in certain areas and mine is on-demand door-to-door. So we will keep in mind for this coordinated plan effort, some of the alternatives that will eventually go to a draft plan for BRABA. So perhaps that's helpful to you as well.
And in the room, we have another comment from Shasta County Health and Human Services, Nicole.
Nicole Radford, Unsheltered Adult Program. The most common thing that I hear from my clients is the wait of time between stops. So it's on the hour, right, for most of the routes. And so when they don't have anywhere else to go or anywhere else to be during that time they're waiting for the bus, when it's 110 or 115 out, there's no cover over the bench, they're out in the heat, and maybe a lot of our clients have a lot of disabilities. So, they're not doing great out in the heat, just like you mentioned. And specifically too with like groceries, if my only way to buy groceries is to ride the bus to get them, I can't really carry a lot of perishables or frozen goods with me if I'm having to wait an hour in the heat for the next bus to come. So that's the biggest thing that I hear from my clients is the wait is too long between pickups.
Okay. Well, hopefully there are some shelter improvements within the SRTP that are being considered for that. That could definitely help create a more enjoyable 105-degree waiting experience. I live in Reno, Nevada, so I understand the heat.
I was going to say, I did the onboard survey last summer and people were quite vocal about this to me when I was there in the 110-degree heat as well. So
you're taking notes.
Yes, they were not pleased about waiting. So
are any of the, John, if you want to chime in here.
Yeah, I just want to add, and I agree that waiting in temperatures of 100 plus is not desirable. And I think frequency is going to be important. So should the system evolve to a network of routes and microtransit is definitely ideal, because then the bus picks you up when you're in a location that you could potentially be under air conditioning, And then if we had frequent service on major routes, that can also help reduce the waiting time, coupled with real-time transit. So people are aware when the bus is due to actually arrive at that bus stop. So somebody can actually come out maybe 5 minutes before the bus is due to arrive, as we work to add more infrastructure.
That's a good point. Gosh, I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something. I guess as far as different mobility needs in the area, we are talking a lot about RABA. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone understands that we are also, that this study in particular is really about focusing in on those health and human services providers that are also, you know, making the ends meet with their own private transportation and getting their own clients to and from where they need to go. And this is kind of an opportunity to look at that inventory and assess where maybe duplicative services are currently occurring. That kind of leads us to our next question of, you know, where, especially when we look at the microtransit map that we just showed earlier, you know, just trying to consider where our best efforts should be pivoted as we maybe adopt this SRTP in the future. If there are any services that you know of that are maybe going above and beyond and serving, having too much availability, I don't hear of that happening very often, but it's just good to recognize it if it is occurring.
Or are there two different human service agencies providing, you know, transportation to a hospital, to Dignity or whatever it is, that maybe those could be combined? You know, that's kind of the coordination aspect that we're getting at. Or can you share the same vehicles? And there's a lot of challenges with that. Maybe it doesn't happen, but since we're all in the room here together, can you think of any instances where, oh, I know that group goes to the same place around the same time?
At the moment, I'm not seeing any hands in the room.
That's all right. Yeah, we just have to pose the question here.
And nothing online.
Well, the one thing I would like to just add about kind of, I was just kind of thinking about was, you were talking about the hospitals, like Shasta Regional, the bus stop is kind of right near the emergency room, but it isn't at Mercy. It's a good almost 2-block walk from the emergency room down to the bus stop. And I don't know, I know there's a big parking lot and all that at Mercy and all that, and it's kind of a mess. There was a way of having to stop closer to those, to that facility.
Currently, there's not, because of that, where that turnaround is. They've got it so tied up and the traffic is so.
Yeah, I know
busy
it's a
there.
mess up
Yeah.
there.
Unless
And you
they
come out, you're
built
just-
something closer for us to access.
It's just, I know I was up there for one thing and I came out and I was totally disoriented
Where to go.
where to go.
Yeah.
Because where I went in and where I came out were two different things and that kind of thing. The only other thing that I could say is in the past, there really hasn't been any like locations where other services would meet up with RABA or whatever. Yeah, there's downtown, but if there hasn't really been any other place I know of that they would be able to meet these other services within the routes that would be like on RABA, Dignity Health. I know they're pretty open to wherever they go, but I know that kind of works in with your microtransit, but you know, there's still, I don't know if they're you know, if one came from an outside area, where they would be able to meet up for those bus services.
What, if I can interject here, I know John still is probably on, but he is working currently on improving the coordination between Sage Stage and Tehama and things like that to meet up with our vehicles at their locations. Also with the Amtrak and also with the Flix bus that's coming in. So those are things that he's working on. And so I would see that those would be a improvement down the road and see the coordination there, getting bus stop signs up so people know that they can catch buses here, stuff like that. So it is in the process.
Do I understand correctly that there are in the works plans for individual bus stops to demarcate other transit services?
Yeah, we have signs and stuff. We're trying to get them put up and stuff, such as Sage Stage and even up on our Bernie Run. So we are working towards that.
Just to understand Patrick's request, is that kind of what you were aiming at, or were you thinking of more transfer stations?
Well, I was, yeah, think of that, because even like, the one was, it was parked in the, where Barnes Noble's lot there, across from Danby.
It's
And
Trinity Transit.
Yeah, Trinity, okay. I can't remember what it was. But they used to park there, but there wasn't really anything that said, oh, you can get this bus here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's signs up there. I think they need to strategically be put where people can see them and marked. I know that, like I said, we have some signs for Sage Stage. Maybe John can reach out to Trinity and see if we can upgrade those and things like that. But they are stopping and they can meet up with those routes that can be. So, and downtown. I think those are the major ones they stop at.
Yeah.
In relation to Trinity, during the midday, they take their break at Mount Shasta Mall, but their actual physical pickup stop is at Canby Transfer Point. We are talking to the mall about installing a Sage Stage sign at the mall food court. That's actually at Sage Stage's official stop.
Yeah, isn't it currently on the other side of the mall, John?
Yes, that is
Yeah.
correct.
We're trying to get them all together so that they all meet in one place.
Yes. And then we're also getting signs from Trax to place in Anderson for those that want to go to Red Bluff.
That's great. So creating more intentional, more signage around general meeting places for several types of transportation services. We'll definitely make note of that. Some other questions we wanted to go through here. Oh, there we go. Anyone had any thoughts around major barriers to transit and transportation? I think we've definitely talked about a few of them, getting to and from transportation services, especially with age and weather. Is there anything else that you can think of that poses a major barrier to either your client population or one that you're, intimately familiar with?
I think as we move towards a lot more social media, getting the word out, I think our elderly are going to have a problem and a challenge with that as far as, getting online and getting their rides. So that's going to be a big challenge for them.
I will say my dad is 73 and he's pretty savvy on the iPhone. So we are starting to move.
Yes, but does he have a disability though? A lot of people, when they get older, they have a disability, whether it's visual or physical, and they don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
Or even younger people.
Yeah.
That's true too.
A lot of our
Yes.
folks don't even know how to ride the bus.
Yeah. So keeping marketing techniques to be as inclusive as possible, offering several types of information, media, and not just media in the sense of social or online, but also hard copy, paper, radio ads for our visually impaired folks, just trying to keep an open mind of how people digest their information. Okay.
So I have, on a follow-up on that comment about young people, how do other communities, or how could our community do more outreach specifically to help people learn how to ride a bus if they haven't, or they're, not engaged? Can you think of something?
I know of something. So I worked at the Opportunity Center before, and the regional center used to have PVSAs, which would help people if they were a far northern client. They could go and learn how to ride the bus, and that was a service they provided. I don't know how it actually works on their end now, because I've totally switched roles, but it's, that would be something we could look into, because.
Sorry, what's PVSA?
Oh, gosh.
Personal care attendant.
There we go. And it's for, it was all kinds of things. It wasn't just for bus riding. It could be just grocery shopping. It could be going into the doctor and telling the doctor what they need, that type of thing. So just some job coaching, or some coaching in general, life skill coaching.
That's also something that's provided free through the Disability Action Center. So our scope of youth for that definition is age 14 to age 30.
Wow.
So it is quite a range.
Wow.
Free services. So that's two opportunities, Far Northern as well as the Disability Action Center.
I think I've heard that referred to as travel training, teaching people how to use it. And I agree, it's such a needed service for people who have, for a lifetime will depend on that. People with disabilities. It's also something that is probably less looked at as something that would be good for older people, because they may have been driving their entire life.
Mm-hmm.
The average senior drives, I think it's 8 years longer than they should. And, and they're at risk. And so, the study I read said that when someone that's older gets in a car wreck, it's more common to have a fatality. And that's usually not because they've killed someone, but because they have died as a result of it, because of their age and physical condition. So the travel training is super important. I had a phone call today from a 60-year-old man who said, my 86-year-old mother-in-law uses a walker, and she needs to get up to Mercy Hospital to see her husband, who's going to be in there for a month. And how do we do that? Because we're going out of town. We usually take her everywhere. So they're concerned. So I said, here's Raba's number. Call Raba, because you're going from Hilltop to Mercy. If that doesn't work, let's call back and we'll see something else, because I know there's some paperwork involved. But this is a woman that has a walker, and she's 86 years old. So I don't guess that might be a problem. But even still, you can't just push her out to a bus stop, or even just say, hey, wait on your front porch. She's going to be anxious about going there. So travel training services, on a more limited level for seniors might be very helpful as well.
And not to mention, she might have to transfer on a bus. How is she going to do that? What bus, where does she go? How does she get there?
Mm-hmm. And she may have been driving her whole life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you say,
I just want to piggyback on what you had mentioned earlier regarding the regional center providing the attendant to assist or teach our folks how to use the public bus system. That service does exist. It's still going on.
Mm-hmm.
When a family needs that service, they can just reach out to their case manager. Unfortunately, that, due to the way that our services are funding mechanism, it's only limited to our clients.
Mm-hmm.
We can't extend that services out.
Yeah, they'd have to be a regional center, yeah.
And it's always been kind of amazing that a lot of the riders know all the routes. And they usually, if somebody gets on who doesn't know, what route to take, there's usually somebody other than the driver who can tell them. So it just takes a little bit of, riding the routes and to learn how to do, where to go. So it's that is one thing that kind of always has amazed me.
I agree.
I think sometimes too, we may be focusing a lot on reaching the potential riders themselves, but it's also equally as important to create information outreach to the family and friends of potential riders in giving them the information and marketing towards them, in addition to the potential riders, especially, you know, as was mentioned, when you have a little bit of a technological gap, you know, just because my father might not see a ad on social media doesn't mean that I wouldn't. And maybe I would think, hey, I should probably call the Beaver Dam Recreation Center and see what kinds of services they provide, for using my father in particular, because he's soon to be a non-driver, I hope.
I wish we were all soon to be.
You do hope that. You hope
I hope that
Until he
those,
calls you.
I was just
yeah,
gonna say, you hope that he'll be a non-driver, but that will be dependent on if he has other alternatives.
exactly, and
that are
it'll be,
comfortable and effective and efficient for him. Yeah.
yes, and as his only daughter, only child, it will probably be up to me to be researching his different opportunities in his region, so.
Well, giving up that independence is really difficult.
It is, yeah, it takes.
I am a person who has never driven, and I've always had to depend on public transportation. So that's always been my, that comes to me really easily. But I know a lot of people, especially if they get into their 80s, giving up control of their independence is very difficult, especially driving.
And how different is that when you think about younger riders? It actually creates independence. Like it's a way for them to learn how to be in the city and do things on their own.
It seems pretty clear from the discussion here that this is a point that should be addressed in the plan, at least this one. I don't know if the short range transit plan addresses it at all, but at least in this one, and hopefully, yeah, we can coordinate with other organizations to see what's on offer, what needs to be augmented, etc.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into travel training as a strategy and try to find some good examples to what can support your existing network there.
And who already provides it?
Exactly, yeah. Were there any other major barriers that we could discuss? Otherwise, we could move into, and we've actually kind of been talking about a strategy already, how to support these travel training programs and maybe bolster them up within the community so more people know about them. Are there any other projects or programs that come to mind when wanting to improve mobility throughout the region?
Looks like John has one.
So, yeah, looks like John has a suggestion.
Yes. One thing that I definitely would like to see in the plan is how do we better coordinate demand response services in this county? For instance, we're running a demand response service within 3/4 mile radius of our routes. CTSA is running demand response services sometimes into that service area. 36 vehicles. If there's some type of way that those vehicles could be shared so we can reduce the number of vehicles we need to provide the service, make it easier for people to use the service by aligning eligibility, similar to what is being done in Butte County, for instance, something that I definitely would like to see and meets the spirit of having a CTSA, for instance.
John, can you explain what happens in Butte County?
Butte County has one demand response program that transports seniors and those that have disabilities that can't ride traditional transit. Of course, the ADA is first priority, and then seniors and non-ADA would be second priority. Round one, Jerry.
Oh, he's listening to our fixed route.
Yes, I'm at the base. Two separate demand response systems doesn't make sense to me and doesn't really show good coordination.
Well, my experience with the on-demand has always been, a lot of times you're the only one on the bus. And it's supposed to be a ride share. They don't really, or I don't know, maybe it's just where I was, but they don't really have a lot of people riding the bus. Occasionally, there might have been two, maybe one or two other, but, you know, I can remember many years ago that doing that kind of thing in a different city, that 5 or 6 people on that bus. But here it's always just been kind of, oh, we're picking you up and taking you here. Okay. Not making any stops? No? Okay.
And that has to do with our area. Our service area is a very large service area, spread out. And as John's getting used to it, he understands that we have, you know, just this huge area and trying to service everybody. And yeah, you may be the only one on the bus at that time, but in the morning, the peak time, there could be 5 or 6 going out to your place, out to Dignity and out to the Golden Umbrella. So it just depends. And the city is, yes, they do carry more people because they're huge. I mean, they're dense there, so.
Well, so my follow-up question is, I'm looking at the 2017 study and some of those observations, John, you mentioned about shared vehicles were included in the strategies from 2017. And so, and my natural question is, and I know, I mean, it's great to have plans and it's great to talk about coordination, but then I guess one of the priorities is, what does that really look like to be implemented? You know, it's like,
Yeah, I can give an example. We did try to share vehicles, 5310 vehicle for other purposes, and we got slapped hard for that, such that they denied us funding the next round. So I think knowing the funding source and the people we're working with would help. But as long as they're all 5310 eligible, I believe that's a possibility. I think it would take, I think it would take coordination, like one entity would have to lead on it, you know, own the vehicle, have the personnel to be the driver, and then the agreements that they would be serving the clients of another entity.
but it's just, I guess what it just means is that in order to, like, I would like to see this process unfold and then say, okay, we get to this point, we have some great ideas. What's the next step on having something really, well, obviously you prioritize it and there's like, I don't know how many strategies in here and some got done. I mean, actually in 2017, we were talking about Sunday service and we have Sunday service in a way, a method. So I guess that's the important thing of knowing that you're part of a plan and how you get the priorities implemented. So that would be my priority.
I would like to just add that in what just Jen was mentioning, that with integrated demand response type of system, when you're transporting the seniors, the persons with disabilities, the ADA, paratransit clients, that's help in having that eligibility for the 5310. In the case of Butte County, for instance, they utilize 5310 solely for the purposes of replacing their demand response vehicles. So that frees up other grant funding sources to replace other vehicles. So similar approach, I believe, could work out here.
And I think what I was hearing a little bit was more the putting examples in the plan or case studies, something so that it's how do we move forward with that, not just a goal.
Tangible
steps. What are the next steps to get that moving?
Yes, agreed.
And who would be the responsible entity for implementing it as well? Or entities?
I think it has to be a joint between RABA and the CTSA.
I have a question for Jen and John, I guess, and maybe anyone else in the room. I'm wondering, as we're talking about coordination, funding is certainly a big factor because there are strings that are attached to funding sources. So I'm just curious, to what extent should we be taking notes about, actually talking with the funders? Maybe they want some feedback about, how some things just aren't working well because of the strings. And maybe if we provided them that feedback, they can learn about efficiencies that we could gain on the ground if they could change some things. And some of this might be out of their hands, but it might be the right time to provide that feedback.
I would think that if you could navigate by explaining like what those strings are, I think that can help some type of framework for us on developing a service or a system that works within those constraints. And I'll give a kind of a good example. And I go back to the demand response, like how we're running demand response utilizing LTF and STA to pay for it. CTSA is running demand response utilizing Article 4.5. And then because of constraints with 5310, we're not really.
No, I didn't hear.
You got to repeat that last part, John. We didn't hear you.
Sorry, is this
5310 restraints?
Yes, the 5310 constraint, which is precluding us from using 5310 to fund operational and capital needs for those that are eligible. So if we find a way to combine all those funding sources to run some type of unified service, ultimately it would free up I think it would free up transit dollars that could be used for other transit needs that have been identified either through this coordination effort or through the unmet transit needs process, instead of us duplicating and spending more than we need to spend.
Thank you.
Great. Wow. You guys did a really great job with that discussion. Sometimes we get to this slide and it's just crickets. So thank you all for being so engaged. No, it's great. And honestly, we'll get to the end of this slide and, Keith and Laurent, you have their contact information, but me as well, feel free to reach out if you go home today and you're like, oh, I forgot to mention this one thing. We're around and we can continue the conversation moving forward, which brings us to our next slide. I'm going to hand it over to Katie, who will be discussing our stakeholder and public outreach process as we move through this.
Yes, and hello everyone, Katie here. I'm encouraged by the last conversation, the last 10, 15 minutes about how we can get some of these materials, how we can hear from the community, how we can tailor some of this outreach to fit best into your communities. So just to introduce myself really quickly, my name's Katie. I'm here representing AIM Consulting. We're a public engagement firm based out of Northern California with more than 30 years experience developing public participation programs that help bring diverse community members together for these types of conversations. We're really familiar with the Shasta region. We were doing workshops for Keith, I think it was this time last year, for the Active Transportation Network. And our team right now has structured a stakeholder and community engagement plan that's going to help build, foster relationships, work with your key stakeholder groups, and explore the transportation choices. Our plan starts really here today with you all and the education and outreach, introducing the plan, understanding the transit gaps and the needs within your community. We've designed a fact sheet for you all to help educate your community members from here. You'll see that we have everything in both English and Spanish to ensure that we're going to get to hard to reach communities. If anyone needs any other languages, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. But we're going to have a few significant touch points with your community, especially this next one coming up in September. We're going to have a public meeting as part of one of these SSTAC meetings, I believe. And we're hoping to hold it in person. We're going to invite the community members far and wide to help join and discuss this future of the plan. We want to have interactive boards, activities, create a significant conversation with your local community about the plan. And you might ask me, how will we do this? Our outreach strategies include a whole bunch of different varieties and a lot of things that you guys were just mentioning in the last discussion. We'll have flyers that are, again, translated into multiple languages, social media ads for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever anyone needs. We'll be calling, connecting to local CBOs, organizations like yourself. It's not only important that everyone attends our meeting, but they help share it into our communities. So yes, you will be hearing from me on help to leverage your communication channels. And if you have any unique ideas on how to get into some of these hard to reach communities, we're always open for a phone call. So again, we're really excited to be part of the engagement team as part on this plan. We really want to get in there, talk to your community members, understand the opportunities, constraints, and needs for your community, and help LSC mold this plan to help best fit the community. And so again, when it comes to engagement, there's really nothing that's off the table. We would love to hear any ideas, any things that might have worked for other public meetings for some of your community members. But just know that we, again, are planning our significant touch point here in September, that we will be really putting a robust engagement plan behind it to help get ads, press releases, posters, flyers, whatever we need to make sure that people are excited to come and talk to us.
There's not yet a date for that?
There is not yet a date for that. I'm hoping to have the date here in the next couple of weeks, week or two, so that we can plan for it. Our engagement plan, just so you know, launches at least 3 weeks before the date of the workshop. That ensures that everyone has plenty of time and opportunity to plan for it and hold it. But I don't think there's a date unless I just missed it.
I think that's part of the reason we're gathering here today.
Yeah.
Is to chat about that.
Is that gonna be in the evening or a daytime meeting? And is it a one-time thing at one particular location?
So that's something we would love to talk about. So I know these meetings are usually like we have right now during the day. Since we are going to be putting a robust engagement to try and get community members there, I would love to maybe straddle this meeting from maybe a 4 to 6, allow people to use it as both part of their work days for stakeholders to be able to come, but also be able to have that time and place that works well for everybody. We're going to talk to Keith about how we can try to make it as hybrid as possible, but if we are going to be in person, we do want to have some input boards and some workshop that people can come and show up. And so we do want to encourage in-person participation if we are there. And then if we decide to do just a fully virtual meeting, I know that we did one last year, Keith, where we did some Mentimeter polling, some activities, some really engaging activities that will make people feel like they're at a public meeting.
Where's a good location? Where's the location?
Yeah, actually, so now that we're talking about this, John, I'm going to ask you, would it be possible for us to do the second, probably the second or the third workshops at the City of Reading? At the what's the
community room
there?
He has to check the schedule.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure.
The reason I'm asking is just because we have a capacity limit here that I would not feel comfortable doing mass advertising and inviting the public to attend here because we would probably have an issue with the fire department. But on the flip side, I don't know if the community center is set up for a hybrid meeting. So if if we were to do it at the community center, I think it probably ought to be just in person. Perhaps what we could do, Katie, and I'm just spitballing here, maybe it could be videoed and then we could upload a recording of it afterwards and then allow people to comment online afterwards.
Absolutely. Again, depending on how we set up the meeting, there's definitely ways that we can either record the presentation part of it, set up a Zoom just for the first maybe half hour that we have a presentation before we maybe open it up to more kind of interactive boards. But either way, again, our hope is to get as many people's eyes on this project and on this plan as possible. And then worst case scenario is we always write a meeting summary that's really comprehensive, that has pictures and data and what we heard. And then we'll make sure that Keith has that so that we can distribute that. So to say, hey, if you missed the meeting, here is kind of a summary of what we saw and what we heard, and give them our project email that they can interact with us to say, no, that's not how I feel, or yes, that is, and still make sure that they're engaging with us as much as possible.
The room capacity is about 90 to 100, I think.
That's like
depending on
twice this location.
Right, depending on how you set the tables and chairs up. And I think it has good accessibility, and the, parking, and it's, hopefully it's connected to transit.
Yeah.
And it's, and the parking is accessible.
Well, with the transit, it should be, if you're going to include that, kind of essentially the last run is around 6 p.m. And if you go till then, people can't get home if they have to transfer to another bus from whatever.
That's a good point. I think we could set it up, and Katie, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the idea would be to set it up where you can kind of come in at your leisure, what's convenient for you within that time range. So I don't think it's incumbent on people to stay for the duration. It's sort of like what works best for you.
So kind of like an open house.
Katie,
Exactly.
Open house.
Yeah, I'm looking for it to be more of an open house that, like you said, if someone is available at 4 and wants to come in for a half hour, then if it works best for them at 5:15 to come in, then they can still get the same experience. Again, we can talk about if there needs to be a presentation for someone virtual, that we are kind of, when we flesh out the ideas of it, but I would recommend more of an open house that allows people to come in and out. If they want to have the experience in 15-20 minutes, they can. If they want to hang out with us for 2 hours, they absolutely can as well.
If you are interested in that room, you should check ahead of time, because it does get booked up for community meetings and trainings and things.
And right, is that the one that you have to have a City of Ready employee sponsor event? Yeah, so I'd get that to John,
John, I don't want to be, hey, can you host?
Just put him on the spot.
Can you host?
Hi, John.
He's gone. He's on the meeting, and I asked him to unmute, but he may be doing something.
He ran away.
Probably driving.
We may need to
He's on the go all the time.
But we'll find a location. But I guess like the main thing I wanted to find out at this meeting is if that time frame 4 to 6 could work for our SS TAC members, because we just think it could work to get more of the public to show up.
Could the Reading Library also be a possible location? They've got that big community room.
Yeah. That's a better location.
Is that the community room there?
when you go into the left.
That one holds even more people.
Yeah, to the left as you walk in, and it might be more of a neutral spot as well,
Yeah.
What's nice about a library is sometimes you end up hooking in some people that didn't know they were going to a workshop.
Yeah.
You can kind of walk through and you can, announce what we're up to, and people will be curious and wander in.
It's kind of like this with cameras and microphones, or is it more sort of traditional?
I think I don't know if there's microphones. I think you could probably bring your own stuff, and
There is a microphone there, and there's a pull down screen.
okay, but not like already hooked up to like TVs. It's been a while since I've been in there, so.
It's been longer since, and you also have to make a reservation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so
But the library can also make announcements like over their PA and stuff, and also let people know like ahead of time, and they're really good about that. And of course, during.
It's a better suggestion.
sounds
Library.
like time is of the essence regardless of our route. No pun intended.
With you, it's always.
Okay, it is.
But yeah, as soon as we set a date, what my team will do is start to create, again, some communication collateral materials, an awareness plan for the 3 weeks leading up to it. And then we will hit the phones, call you all, connect with our local CBOs, Chamber of Commerce's, making sure that everyone knows about it. But we'll need about 3 to 4 weeks to make sure that we can design a flyer, get it translated, get it approved, and get everything out with at least, again, best practices is about 3 weeks to give people proper notifications to make sure that we don't spring any public meetings on them.
Say right now that I'm not available September 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. So sorry.
Well, that's good because I'll be in New York City, so I'm happy for that one.
Labor Day.
It's my 50th, my wife's 50th.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Maybe we're looking to, mid to late-ish March or September, the 11th to the 15th, or the 18th to the 22nd. I think typically we try to do a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Thursday, but we shy away from the Monday, Fridays. Just to give everyone kind of
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Tuesday.
usually easy. I mean, again, it's really hard these days to find any time or place that works for anyone. And so trying to make it as public friendly as possible is key. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday usually works the best.
Great. So I think Keith and Laurent will probably head up finding a date that works for everyone with everyone here today.
Carrie?
Yeah, I've got a question. What languages do you plan on having the materials in so far?
So far we're scoped just for English and Spanish, but and again, we'll have my Spanish speaking coordinator with me at the workshop in person. My team is capable of translating materials into any other languages that you all need.
Okay. I think that Hmong and Mien, especially in Shasta County, would be helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I wanted to ask from you all today is if there is any specific materials that will help best speak to your community members, we definitely want to tailor them to them. And so please let us know. We want to make this process as equitable and engaging as possible.
Great.
That the organization Level Up NorCal does a lot of work with the Spanish-speaking Hmong and Mien populations in our area. So making sure that they're on the list to get the material or the flyers and out to their community. I have a good relationship with them, so I can pass that along to them. But it's really helpful to already have the materials translated.
Oh, absolutely.
Level Up NorCal.
Okay.
Yep. And we do know them as well. They were super helpful with us last year as well.
Awesome. Yeah, they're great.
And yes, and the goal is that we are helping you all as much as possible to provide you all the materials that you need. So if there's things that needs to be translated, things need to be edited, sized for a different publication, please just let us know and we're happy to help.
Great. Is that all for public outreach? We'll be waiting to hear on a time and location, preferably the library, for mid to late September.
Yes, and as soon as we have a date, I'm happy to help jump in and help secure the location and anything that needs to be done for that.
Yeah, maybe just before we leave today, if you can, I don't know if you have access to your calendars on the fly, but if you can kind of let me know if have any hard no dates, that would be very helpful.
I have a different question. We were talking about the time being from 4 to 6, and I was listening to, the comments about timeframes and stuff. So if somebody comes in there at 4 o'clock, and let's say they're perusing and they're looking around, they're asking questions, they're done at 5. Raba's there to pick up at 5, will that person those folks be able to get home by 6 fully? Is it a 1 hour route, or does it take 2 hours to get home? I don't know.
If it depends on where it's gonna be. So if it's gonna be at a community center down at City Hall, there's a bus stop across this way that goes down to the terminal that they can catch a bus to go where they are at 5:20 or 6:20. Last one to go anywhere to get home anywhere would be at 6:20 from the downtown terminal. So they would have to be able to get down to the downtown terminal to get home.
Okay, so let's just say, because I work up north, so let's just say that somebody's getting on the bus at 5:20 to go downtown, which gets downtown at what time again?
Well, they would have to catch it at the 5 o'clock, at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
For a 5:20 transfer at the downtown terminal.
And then if, let's say they get to the one on Masonic, is it Masonic still?
One, yeah, yeah. They get up there, they leave at 5:20, they can catch the Route 1 to go to Shasta Lake at 5:35. They can catch it at 6:35 too.
Okay, I just want to make sure if we do it at 4, if our folks will still have time to get home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not cutting it too close. I mean, we could start at 3:30 if it's cutting it too close.
That's up to you guys.
I have one more thought, because if we go late September, you're also looking at the time change, which means it will be getting dark earlier.
Is the time change?
No, it's in October.
Isn't it?
November this
Oh,
year.
it's November?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we got a little time.
Yeah.
Seniors are definitely gonna be on the earlier side.
And we can extend it. It doesn't have to
Oh,
be,
I don't
I
know.
mean, I don't want to misspeak, but we can extend it. We can start it earlier. My just thought is you want to have at least an hour after 5 o'clock to encourage community members to come. It's hard to tell community members that you're having a public meeting while they're technically at work. But we're
I have no
flexible.
conflicts.
What's that?
I just wanted to say I don't have any conflicts. Like there's stuff, but not around those times. So
What dates? What
We're
dates?
kind of looking at the 12th and 13th.
I don't have any.
I can't do the
Tuesdays,
12th.
Wednesdays, Thursdays, mid to late September.
I would,
So most importantly, Kate, do you have any no dates of those 4?
Anytime after the 12th. So
Got
I
it.
come back, I'm finally getting a vacate. I'm gonna take a couple of days and go to New York City and go eat a pizza and come back.
Well, I would steer away from Tuesdays.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, what Jackie said is kind of making an impression on me, and I'm getting a little bit nervous about people being able to have a meaningful experience at the meeting and then, comfortably get to their bus to catch a connection to go wherever. So I'm kind of thinking we ought to start this at 3:30, but still go to 6.
Okay.
Sure. Sound good?
And I think we're looking at the 19th or 20th, or the 26th, 27th would be the Tuesday, Wednesdays, mid to late September.
Not Tuesday. I think we're avoiding Tuesdays because of because of council meetings.
Got it.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So maybe
They meet on the
Wednesday or
first and
Thursday.
I mean, the city councils, 3 city councils each meet on the first and third Tuesdays. That's in the evening, but it's also you want to check the Board of Supervisors meetings because they can go all day.
20th.
Wednesday's better.
They have a different schedule. They meet, but we have to look at them.
No
I
kidding.
think it was this morning. I thought it was.
Start in the morning, they're not done sometimes by.
But Wednesdays, it seems like, right? We could do.
Wednesday, Thursday seems like a better day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a better day.
So then we're looking at
The 20th and 21st.
Yeah, 20th or 21st.
What about the 21st? I know that the 20th is still the APA conference.
Oh.
Maybe the 21st.
Okay.
Board of Supervisors meets on
Says Tuesday.
Tuesdays at 9,
Got it.
9 a.m.
All right.
But committees can go all day.
Tentatively, September 21st, 3:30 to 6, yeah?
Can we just, for the second one, could Thursday, the 28th also work since you're having to reserve a room? You know, you want to have maybe a couple of options.
Yes,
So,
thank you. I appreciate you thinking of that.
so Thursday, the 28th also, or
Absolutely.
Wednesday, the 27th.
Okay.
The 27th, right.
And we did decide that the library is our first choice, correct?
Preferred, yeah.
Okay, I will call them tomorrow and see if they're available, and then we'll go from there.
I can send over a direct contact for the library of an individual I work with.
Great.
Thank you.
Do you know Katie's email address?
I don't.
It's on the group email. She was one of the individuals copied. I think you were right, Katie.
I should have been, yes. I can put it in the chat box if needed to.
I don't know if.
I don't know if you can see that.
I'll find it on here.
Sorry.
Okay.
So I also wanted to ask at this time, if this is a good time to talk about the fact sheet.
Yeah.
Okay. So AIM and LSC have prepared this lovely fact sheet for all of you. It basically just sums up very briefly what we've talked about today in English and in Spanish for the benefit of other colleagues and clients. So we just ask that you distribute this to to people that could be interested and might want to provide input. And then if you need to make copies, if you could just print some more out, that'd be great. If you would like a PDF, please just let me know and I'll send you a PDF of this as well.
That room is available, by the way.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
Look at that. On what day?
Wow.
28.
28.
Yep, the maximum capacity is 130
At the library?
at the library.
I am just going to share for those who are online. Oh, it actually looks like Mr. Ando may have popped off. But yeah, so here's our fact sheet. I know he has it physically there for you all in the room. But we're hoping that you can distribute this to your colleagues and communities and just let people know what we're doing. And then Katie will be following up with.
Definitely want a PDF.
Yes, we can.
Email.
The one thing I will point you to is that we created an easy sign up for community members or yourselves to stay up to date with the project. And so if anyone's really asking, like, what can they do today to get involved? Sign up for updates. That way they can ensure that they will be notified for any plan updates.
Let's look here towards the bottom left.
It's under the 2 action items.
What to do when we go back and reprint it.
Yeah, that's what we do.
And I do have a couple more slides, actually just one more meaningful one that just kind of gives us a overview of our timeline here. Here we are. So we kicked off in June of this year. Here we are in our workshop number 1. A draft survey is out to Keith and Laurent currently for review. This will be our inventory, looking into all the different transportation providers in the region, what services they provide, what vehicles they own, their annual budgets, how many people they serve, etc. During the first part of August, we'll be completing our first tech memo that goes into our existing conditions and a description of existing services. Towards the end of August, we'll have our second tech memo that goes into more detail on the current strategies from the 2017 plan and their status. That was we touched lightly on that earlier. That analysis is coming. We will be asking where different strategies are at and if they were implemented and why they have been or have not been, what kind of challenges were faced. September, we'll be having that community workshop, as well as our Tech Memo 3, which will be starting into our strategies and recommended strategies. We will also be having some of these initial strategies presented at this workshop to get people's initial feedback on the strategies that we come up with. And then we have a bit of a break for all this digesting of Tech Memos 1, 2, and 3. And in January, we will return after the holidays to present our draft report during our 3rd workshop with you all. And after that, we're finalizing, incorporating edits and revisions with a final adopted plan in April. Yeah, if you have any other questions or concerns, please contact Keith or Laurent. They can convey to us as the consultants. And yeah, any other questions or concerns or thoughts? I'm really, really proud that we considered and nailed down our next workshop. So good job, everyone. But that is all from us.
Well, I've got nothing online here, so.
You want to close out the workshop then?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, because so I can help.
Yeah, I think that's it. So
It's closed.
We'll move on.
Okay.
I call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It's nice to meet you all. See you again soon.
Yes, thank you.